Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mobius Chess. This is the flat version, and there are several different ways to do it. A lot of people use twice as many rows, so they have 16 total rows and they have 8 columns, but I prefer this version where we have 14 rows and still 8 columns. And here's why. If you just look from 1 to 8 and cut off the rest of the board, then you have a standard chess set. And now all I've done is add a row of pawns up on the other side of the regular pieces for black and the regular pieces for white. And that means we have 4 blank spaces starting off in between these 2 rows of pawns, and 4 blank spaces in between these 2 rows of pawns. And the reason I have minuses and pluses, I call these posipawns and negapawns, is that the posipawns move toward larger numbers and the negapawns move towards smaller numbers. So in regular chess, we still have posipawns and negapawns. Over here's a regular chessboard. This is just 8 by 8. On the black side, all of the black pawns are negapawns. They move towards smaller numbers exclusively. And all of the white pawns are posipawns. They only move toward bigger numbers. Over here, we have both kinds of pawns for each color, so that these posipawns can go up this way and then loop around back down to this part of the board, because the idea is this is a Mobius strip. You could also think of it as well, you could just think of it as teleporting, I guess. You know, like your pawn gets here to C11 and it transports down to C12. Or you can think of it as the surface of a cylinder, but it's a whole lot cooler, I think, to think of it as a Mobius strip. And I like that so much that I made my own Mobius chessboard. Let's see, so let's hold it this way. So this row here, row 1, this corresponds to the regular bottom of a standard chessboard. Okay. And then, so here's our king, and I just have little loops of paper, and they're just taped on right now. I'm thinking if I wanted to actually play with this, instead of using tape, I would probably get felt and Velcro, I'm guessing. I think that would work pretty well. So then you can move upward to 2, 3, here we go, and we can just keep going, because we only have one side. You don't have to, yeah. Oh, I love that. I love how they like angle toward each other. But okay, so now we're over to black. Now of course we can look at it from the other direction if we want to. We just have to keep track of where the next biggest number is. So I have arrows here pointing in the direction of the ways the numbers are going up. So when I'm looking at 7, oh, I think I just knocked off a piece. That was a negapawn. Anyway, so if I'm looking at 7 here, I know that 8 is down this way instead of up here because, and that's important because I have these negapawns and I only want the negapawns moving in the negative direction. So I only want them going this direction. So that if they keep going forward, they loop around and end up getting to the back row of the posipawns of the white pieces. Okay, back at row 2.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are some interesting features of this. First of all, obviously you have 2 boards and you're kind of playing 2 games at once, or you have the potential to. You also have the potential to play exactly 1 game if you don't touch any of the any of the new pawns. But you could completely split the board if you wanted to and have some of your pieces doing things up here and some of your pieces doing things out here. Which I think is pretty cool because it's a little bit more like realistic battle conditions, I think. One of the changes, the big changes that happens, is the bishops end up being a bit weaker compared to the rooks and the queens in particular, because the rooks, if we got everything out of the way of this one white rook, we got rid of this piece, and this piece, and this piece, and this piece, and this piece, then this rook would have, basically, it could move in infinity spaces if it wanted to. And so over on a regular chessboard, it could only move at most 8 spaces, but I guess it would be 7 spaces if you're not counting the first one. But anyway, whereas a bishop if you had a bishop all the way over in the corner where this rook is, it could move all the way to the other side of the board, this whole 8 spaces. But here, since the board is 14 instead of 8...
It moves 7 spaces too.
Well, yeah, I know it moves 7 spaces too.
Right. Okay, they move the same.
Right. They're the same. So anyway, it can traverse the entire board. And since we have 14 spaces here, but it's only 8 columns wide, the bishops can't traverse the entire board. So if you want to restore the balance, I'm not sure that this would actually restore the balance, but it might help. With the bishops, you can have the bishops loop around. That is, if I have this bishop, and this pawn isn't in the way, and my bishop at c1 goes like this, then I can have him go all the way off around the side of the board and end up over at a7 and keep going like this. Now, if we just let him loop infinitely, as far as he wanted to like that, eventually he would be, if he didn't have any other pieces in the way, he would be able to cover the entire board, or at least all of the black spaces. So one way to stop that craziness from happening is only have the bishop move twice as far as usual, so 14 squares if you usually move 7. So you just have to count, you know, and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and this is as far as the bishop is allowed to go.
Wait. He should go from...
Is that right?
Here to...
This is a white space. What are you talking about?
No, he goes... This is black, and then
oh,
here?
Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So yes. But
I'm
no.
here to peer review.
Should he be here? Yeah, he should be here.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then if he were able to keep going, he would end up over at 1 and up this.
This is very counterintuitive when it's flat. I'm not used to living in a weird, flat, Euclidean, normal... This is nonsense. Where's my good old...
It is definitely not
one-sided.
more intuitive on this. This is going to take a lot of work to be able to get my brain around. So that's one possible variation. Another variation I really like is instead of having just positrons,
Positrons! Yes.
Instead of posipawns and negapawns, you see, we have a whole lot of extra pawns, a whole lot more pawns here than usual, so I think that there's a potential for them to get in the way more than we would expect during the endgame especially. Instead, we could have just pawns and anti-pawns. And then what happens if a pawn and an anti-pawn of the same color meet up? So if like this guy makes it all the way here, for instance, then both this pawn and this pawn explode.
Ah!
Yes. So
do they leave a crater?
I don't think they leave a crater, but they at least leave the board. You lose your pawns, and they're out of the way, which might actually be something that you would want to do on purpose on occasion, I think. So there are lots of variations, and if we just have the bishops looping this way, and we don't have and then presumably we also want the queen doing this looping thing if we're going to do that at all. If we don't have the rooks and the queens also moving infinitely horizontally, then from the perspective of the bishop, we're playing not on a Mobius strip, but on a donut with these columns slowly spiraling around.
I'm gonna have to see this to imagine it. I've never been inside of a donut full of columns. But it sounds like a beautiful and delicious architectural feat.
Just imagine, you have a donut. I wish I had I don't have a donut or I would show you, but you have a donut.
If you had a donut, you would not have time to show me.
You have a donut, and you can just imagine one line, and you draw it like when you're putting cranberries or something around the outside of a wreath, right? It loops around the inside. So you just have a whole bunch of those, and those are the columns. That's the perspective of the bishop if you do this. But if you wanted the rooks and the queens also to move horizontally infinitely, you could do that too. The game would be way crazier.
Oh God.
But then everybody would be on a donut. I kind of like the idea that we can't quite define what space we are in if we have the bishops seeing things differently from everybody else.
It's like they're wizards.
I think when I first start really playing this game, on my actual Mobius board here, I'm just gonna play completely vanilla chess, just standard chess. where the bishops...
Yeah, this is vanilla chess. It's one-sided, infinite, weird.
Right, so
vanilla chess.
Where the bishops can only move, they're all the way to the other side of the board, and that's all. With, of course, looping up here if we're on a flat board. But another cool thing about this is the negapawns for the black are exactly opposite.
Oh, wow.
Negapawns for the white.
So all we need to do is really tunnel. If we get a tunneling crew to help out,
I've thought a lot about that.
Then we could.
Because actually the math of the tunneling is kind of cool because you have this modular arithmetic thing going on and you can predict what's going to be on the other side. We would be creating, at that point, a completely different game. It would be fun, but...
We'll replace the bishops with tunnelers and they'll hop to the other side.
For a little while at least, I would really just like to play regular chess, except I have to watch my back and we're playing on two fronts at once.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, my past entire day has been spent coloring and cutting construction paper. It's been fun. So, yes, Mobius Chess times.
So the lesson is, if you're ever an army, trap your opponents on a Mobius strip, and you will surely triumph if you've practiced with this.
Well, given that it's a zero-sum game, I suppose so.